Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers, mostly the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and welcome to my podcast in which I discuss an individual horror film from any different subgenre or decade with a special guest who kind of helps me have a little critique and analysis on that film. Now, sometimes that critique and analysis will become a full-on conversation that we just kind of have fun with, and other times we get into nitty-gritty of why that particular film is an excellent film or an overlooked gem. Today's film,
or it could just suck all together. So.
I kind of wasn't going to say that this time.
Well, I'm not saying that about this specific movie. I'm just saying we could be talking about something really bad, and then we still like it anyway. So,
well, thank you, Dave. And that's for everyone listening. That is my special guest for today, Dave Watkins, who has been joining me on a lot of these classic film reviews, because we love to throw in a couple of classic films every now and again to kind of give everyone the overview of the entire history of horror. That being said, the film we're talking about today is Dracula's Daughter from 1936, and we are continuing to delve into the Dracula, or more importantly, the original Universal monster films. We've already done The Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Mummy franchise, and now we're moving on to the Dracula film. So we do hope that you have checked out our episode on the original Dracula film with Bela Lugosi in it, and we're going to continue.
He joined us on the podcast. It was really shocking when it happened.
So now we're going to take a look at the first sequel in the franchise. So because neither one of me or Dave were around when this movie was originally released, I do have to ask, when was the first time you kind of saw the film, and what was your impressions of that, Dave?
Right. So this has been, I've had the Dracula collection, like DVD, and now I have the Blu-ray, which includes the original Dracula, Spanish language Dracula, 1931, both of them, and then this one and the Son of Dracula. However, for some reason, I don't think I've ever watched it. So this is the first time I've actually sat through the whole thing. I do believe I put it on, but just for some reason it didn't click with me. Okay. But since we did the podcast and we have to talk about it, I ended up watching the whole thing. So I'm ready to talk about it now. But I do want to point out though that the first Dracula from 1931 this is 1936, so it's only like 4 or 5 years after the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And originally when they were going to make this one, this is like a really huge missed opportunity. That's so unfortunate that Bela Lugosi was supposed to return for this, and maybe Boris Karloff. At one point they announced he was supposed to be in it, and Clive, was it Clive, Colin Clive who played Frankenstein in the original, Frankenstein the Doctor in the original. But those guys were all supposed to be in this, but somehow during the production process, I think Bela Lugosi wanted too much money, and then they decided just to do something completely different.
Oh. Okay.
But we have something very unique here, and something that I completely overlooked by not watching it. I was upon watching it this time, I was like really taken back by some of this film.
So, actually, on this same fence with you, I saw this film a long time ago. I've only ever seen this before we did the podcast for this. I'd only ever seen this one once, because everyone knows I'm not a big vampire fan, and so these classic vampire films like this I just have never really watched that often, and I had not seen this one more than the one time when I originally got the box set of all of them, and I kind of watched them all within a day, and nothing really clicked with me when I originally watched the film, but when I was rewatching it for the podcast, I found out how interesting the story was with the so-called Dracula's Daughter character. It was something that it was kind of unique because I haven't seen it in any other vampire type movies.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's of course we covered the Vampire Lovers and all that, the kind of Camilla type of story. But as far as like, it is different though. It's interesting the atmosphere. We've been covering Hammer films a lot lately. If anyone, we have a spinoff of this that it's called Conversations in Hammer Horror, but those are all in color. It's been a while since we watched a black and white one, but just the starkness of the black and white and just the atmosphere and all the fog, and Universal really had that atmosphere down. Hammer does a really good job too, but it's just something about something about the budget. They had some kind of like at the time the budget and the sets. It all just like it looks pretty big and pretty atmospheric on some of the exterior shots. And you know, especially the opening of it when you go into which is Dracula's house in London, which is it picks up right after where the original one ended. And we do get to see Bela Lugosi in the coffin, even though it's a wax figure of him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I had forgotten that when I rewatched this. For some reason, I was thinking that this had almost nothing to do with the original one for some reason until I rewatched it. I'm
yeah,
like, this is a direct, like, it literally takes place right after the event in the
yeah,
original film.
and even has Edward Van Sloan returns as
Professor
Professor
Van
Von Helsing. Um, And he's like the only, I guess he's about the only returning cast member from the original one. Because even like in the original, at the end of the original Dracula film, like that Jonathan Harker character was in that scene, but when they start again, he's just not there. You know, there's
Yeah.
okay, I guess he just bounced or something. But
Well, I think where he goes off with Mina, and then we or was she called Mina in the first one?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
we
pretty
watched
sure
so
it was
many
Mina.
Dracula
Yeah,
films.
yeah,
I'm forgetting which
yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah,
making sure the names. So he goes off with her after she's saved, and that's the last we see of her. And then they don't make mention of them at all in this movie. Um,
yeah,
I'm actually glad they don't do that because it allows this film to be its own little thing. And goes into a different type of story with the Van Helsing character being accused of murder, which I thought was very interesting. I can't remember if I've seen that before, but I like that aspect. This is what it starts. He
yeah,
gets questioned by two police officers who come down to see Renfield's dead body, and then they realize that he has staked another body in a coffin. And of course, they don't believe that it's a vampire or anything like that, so they want to put him up. They want to arrest him for the murder of Dracula. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was a good way to start the movie off, despite the fact
yeah.
that some of the other elements don't always go back to that. But it's a good jumping off point for people who are just now seeing this would be their first film in the franchise and not so much the original film. So
I was surprised that with Edward Van Sloan returning, his name wasn't that pronounced in the opening credits. He's pretty far billed down the cast list. You
oh
think it would be a bigger deal? I guess people just didn't care about him. I think he actually I even like the way he does the character even better in this one than he did in the original one. He seems a lot more comfortable with the character, a lot looser with it.
no, I agree with you on that. He most definitely, which makes for a much more interesting performance. Although he doesn't get to do much at the very beginning of the film, other than kind of be the logical person to tell the story that no one's believing, uh, from the
Yeah.
constable to his own lawyer.
But it's funny, yeah, it's funny like the stuff that he's sitting there and he's saying very calmly,
Yeah,
very matter of fact, exactly what happened. Vampires and he got to stake them because they were vampires and all, and he's just being very calm and relaxed about it, and they're just like, "What are you saying? You're saying you just murdered this guy, you killed him in his coffin?" Which I guess they probably thought it a little weird that he was in the coffin to begin with, but you know,
yeah. Uh, yes, but I also think that it's weird because they're played this the opening sequence with these two cops who find the murdered Renfield and Van Helsing with the body of Dracula are the cops are played for um comedic
yeah.
comedic purposes. Shit, I
Right,
couldn't
yeah,
figure
yeah,
it out.
yeah. I thought yeah. There's a little bit more of that in this film than
Yes.
expected, because and it actually helps a lot. And this is something they did a lot in Hammer films later on. But it's this one being 1936. It doesn't feel like a 1936 film almost. It feels like a lot sharper than that. It's like
No,
the writing's pretty sharp.
it is because there's this great and we'll get to the characters in a few moments, but there's this great repertoire between Janet and
Oh yeah.
is it Jeffrey? Jeffrey is the main character.
Yeah, yeah, he's the main character. It's like a huge age gap between them, like 20 years, but it
Yeah.
somehow, yeah, but it still works though. It's like it just the flusteredness, and it's like this. It's like really surprising some of the stuff that relationship is like very well written.
Yeah, it,
And
it might seem an odd because of what we're seeing that character go through, but
yeah,
it actually works. In my opinion, it works.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, I think it adds a lot to it, and she's great.
Yeah, she's
What's her
great.
name?
I was gonna say, what is her name?
Yeah,
Marguerite Churchill?
yeah. She plays like Janet Blake. Yeah, she's just fantastic. So's the actress that plays Dracula's daughter, who's the Countess, like Gloria Holden.
Yeah, Gloria Holden.
Yeah,
I've seen several. I've seen some other movies with her in it. I wish I could remember them right off the bat as we're talking about them. But
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I looked it up. There was, Janet Blake was actually in another movie the same year as this called The Walking Dead. You
oh,
ever seen that with
yes,
Boris Karloff?
yes.
And I've never seen it, but like I was like, she did those two movies, and then she did some other stuff, but those are two. They're two big movies, all both in the same year, in her biggest roles. And then she kind of like did a little bit of stuff, and then eventually stopped acting. But she had quite a screen presence, though.
Yes, he did. That was that's why that's a little sad now to hear that she's just kind of stopped acting. So I
Well,
don't think
yeah, I mean, she did some more. It's not like, but a lot of times with these, I guess they're under contract. It was,
contract
for
players.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then contract players, and then they were maybe, I don't know what the story is. I couldn't really look into it any further than that. But I did notice that she did a little bit more, but it didn't. Those are her, this was her big year, 1936, where she did like two
big.
big parts in two still somewhat well known horror films. Yeah, I don't think The Walking Dead was Universal though, but it did have a great cast.
I do not remember, to be honest with you, because of the fact that it is one of Boris Karloff's movies, and he kind of went from studio to studio a lot. So I don't remember offhand either. I have it as part of one of my Boris Karloff collections because I have a huge collection of Boris Karloff films.
So
Not
which so
all of
which
his
is
films, but last.
which is better, the show or the movie with Boris Karloff?
I've not seen all the episodes for Thriller yet. His show Thriller. I know. Trying to remember if he had another
I mean,
show.
I mean the Walking Dead, the shows.
Oh shit, you're talking about that? I'm like, oh no, they're fucking different, dude. There's like what 80-year difference between the two.
Yeah,
Jesus, oh my god. And I wouldn't be surprised if
yeah,
there's another movie out there called The Walk. Yeah, there is another movie out there called The Walking Dead. I think there's two other
yeah.
movies.
I'm looking it up now. It's the Warner Brothers made the one with Boris Karloff in
Okay,
it.
okay.
The other actor in it was Edmund Gwynn, that I recognize his name. He played the Santa Claus on A Miracle on 34th Street, the original one.
Oh, okay.
He's also in the Ant film Them.
Them, which I
Yeah,
love. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we have to add that one to our list too. We don't have them.
yeah. I think they have a new release of Them coming out too. Them looks really awesome. The way it's been a long time since I've seen it. Before I remember, I think people really underestimate that one. That's one of the better of the giant ant films. So
Yes, yes, it is one of the better ones. Okay. So the thing about this film is after we get the whole start up with the story, Professor Van Helsing tries to tell the constable his story. The constable obviously doesn't believe it. And then it ends up he has to get a lawyer, but he doesn't have a lawyer. He has his psychiatrist
yeah,
friend, which is Jeffrey Garth.
yeah. He's like, well, yeah, he calls him in, but something I think we're missing though. Another really awesome sequence. Well, I don't. It's maybe happening around the same time, but there is a bit where they bring the bodies of Dracula and Renfield back to this police station, and then there's
Yes.
another comedic part where these two police officers. One of them's a little bit older than the other one, and one of them's he kind of reminds me of the way that one actor Nigel Bruce played Dr. Watson in the Sherlock Holmes with Basil Rathbone, but he's
Yeah.
kind of a bumbling like kind of police guy, and they're both kind of scared.
Yeah.
But one of them, they're both acting like one of them's acting like he's not scared at all. And he's acting like the other guy's a complete idiot, and he's trying to make him do everything. And then he opens the door, and then they see something on the ground, like moving around in the dirt. I don't, what do you think that was? It was really bizarre.
Because of the way that everything else unfolds in the movie, I believe that truly was just a rat.
But yeah,
Whether
yeah,
or not, yeah. Because after rewatching the entire film, I get the impression that Dracula is dead and he's not controlling the rats or anything like that. The rats just happen to be down there.
yeah. It's pretty creepy looking though. But if you think about something moving in the dirt, but it
Yeah,
probably is like a rat. Maybe Dracula's daughter's controlling the rat because she is outside the police station. But they go and look in there, and then the older guy's like, one guy like won't look in there. He sees something and he leaves, and the older guy's like, I'll go in there and look, and he goes in there and look, and he sees it too, and he's like, all right, I'm leaving.
yeah.
He's like, yeah, he's like, I'll leave you to it. I got to go do something else, and then that's when Dracula's daughter shows up.
It's a great way for her to be introduced right there. She's
Yeah,
coming to the jail cell as a kind of like a relative who wants to see the body type thing.
but
Uh,
she's dressed in all in black, and she
yeah.
has like a hood on, and she has like a it's like a kind of a mask around her mouth, and so you only see her eyes, and they look quite mesmerizing,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's like you got that really tight close up of her eyes, and he's seeing her eyes, but not only does she have the eyes, she has this ring, and she's able to actually put him under like a trance with the ring.
Yeah. Well, she puts the one leftover police officer in a trance, so he doesn't remember her coming by. But of course, she goes in and steals Dracula's body. Um, and so then, Dracula's body is gone, which is why after seeing that sequence, I don't believe that Dracula in any way has, shape or form, has control over the rats or anything like that.
Yeah,
Or
but she possibly did though,
I kind of
maybe.
don't get the impression that she wants to do any of that unless she
Yeah,
has
yeah.
to. This is
It
why
probably
I
is
like
just it
this.
probably is just a random rat. It's kind of a creepy too that the floor of the jail cell is just dirt. Like,
Yeah.
or I don't even. It's not really. I guess it's a jail cell, but it's like a cell that they're keeping. I guess the morgue. It's like the morgue at the jail. That's where they're keeping the coffins in there.
Yeah, this is a small town. They haven't had enough time to put down no cement to the ground yet, so it's still just dirt. But it's cool to see whatever it is, the rat drilling through the dirt there. We
Yeah,
don't see the rat,
yeah,
we just see the dirt move up and move, and which scares the cops.
yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, but
It's
the
fun. It's a funny back and forth between those two guys, and
yes,
it's a pretty unique transition between the show The Time after she comes in and she hypnotizes the one cop. There's like a close up of a clock on the wall, which is something that's used a lot of times. I don't, but this is an earlier form of that, and then it dissolves to the clock later, and then that's how they go to show you the time at that
yes.
time lapse, which is it's probably an earlier version of that happening when the other cops come in.
Yeah, they come in and realize that Dracula's body is gone. It's been, and the other cop doesn't know what the hell happened.
And
Uh
then she takes his body to a really cool like location that's very atmospheric and foggy. I guess it's kind of in the woods, and she burns it.
Yeah, there's a lot. No, I really like that scene because of the way they used the fog in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. The one thing I loved about this film, is the cinematography. The cinematography for this film in '36 is still really good.
yeah,
They haven't Universal monster films haven't gotten to the point where they have lost their money and doing things on the cheap yet. This movie still looks
yeah.
really good.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, like that scene. I just think like that scene looks really good. The police office scene looks really good. Like the earlier part where they find Dracula, it all looks really cinematic and very very atmospheric.
Yeah, yeah.
And but also, what also happens though in that scene where she's burning Dracula's body, she takes off the mask and you see her face for the first time, and she looks a little weird under with. She looks better later without the hood on, but.
Mhm.
But what did you think about seeing her face for the first time once she takes off the
I
mask
kind
there?
of I after realizing why she's doing it because she thinks that now the only way for her to be free from Dracula is to burn his body. I kind of saw that as her first time where she's able to reveal herself from that impulse or that influence, so to speak. So now she can do whatever she wants to without Dracula being there.
Yeah, and she actually says that too in the
Yeah,
dollar. She says she's a free from Dracula's curse. She's a free woman because there's another dude there who looks a lot like Bela Lugosi named Sandor, who's her
Sandor.
acolyte, and he's pretty sinister looking. And I think yeah he does. He looks like I say he looks similar to Bela Lugosi, a little different. But what I mean, I guess what did you think about the way that she looks though? Her look when she took, I mean, when she takes off the mask.
She, because of her facial features, she looks like she could be a more gothic and dangerous person that you might think of as Dracula's daughter, if she really is Dracula's daughter and not just one of Dracula's brides or anything like that. She doesn't seem to be like a daughter. Like she seems much
Yeah.
older than a daughter. Uh,
Well, it's kind of stupid daughter, you know.
yeah, yeah,
It's like how does he even have a daughter, you know?
I didn't want to admit, I didn't want to talk about all that. And that's one of those things where why did they just go with the brides like they, like they do in the book? That would have just been much better.
Yeah,
Dracula's
yeah.
bride or one of the bride. I think brides of Dracula. I think it was already used by.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I was reading a little bit about the production on this, and it said that there was a short story called Dracula's Guest.
yeah,
That you heard about that, but it's a they don't know exactly where it came from. They think it might be like a prequel or like a chapter that was removed from the book, but they were originally wanting to make that into this. I think this is it's slightly in this, hardly in here at all. But that did include a female vampire that Dracula's guest comes across who
hmm.
has a wolf and all that. But she doesn't have a wolf. But that's really as far as it goes as far as this movie. But just the idea that there's a female vampire somewhat related to Dracula.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I've never read the story. I do have the story in a book of other short stories from Bram Stoker.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
just have never read it.
Yeah, well, I hadn't read it either, but I did read about it. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I just kind of I was like under the impression like if it would have been made it would have made much more sense if it was more like a bride because she wants freedom from her husband
Yeah,
slash her husband slash Dracula. So it made for a much better story for me to think of it that way instead of like the daughter aspects. um,
yeah.
but that's the thing that made it interesting. This vampire has a different motivation than you would think in one of these films. Dracula in the original one had kind of like a one track mind with what he wanted.
Yeah, but she does think it's interesting. She does think that she's cured of the curse
Yeah,
after all these years. She thinks she's good to go. And Sandor is like not liking the idea of
yeah,
being free of the curse. And he keeps kind of making like really dark comments. And she's like all positive, and he's just like he just keeps making. She says something like at one point, um, she says she asked him what he sees in her eyes, and he's like death.
yeah.
And
He's such an optimistic familiar. He
she's like, all right, you're right. Fuck it. She goes and gets her coat and puts it on and goes and finds a victim.
Well, I actually kind of got the impression that maybe he was more of a Dracula familiar slash Renfield than for her. But,
Yeah,
you know, she just
yeah,
inherited him after she kills Dracula and burns him.
yeah, but then she goes out and finds some guy to kill, and um, yeah, and then the next day you see the dude on the table. All the doctors are examining him.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, And that around there, so that's when we're kind of to what you were talking about earlier, where Van Helsing meets with the doctor, Dr. Garth, who is the top billed actor in the film, played by
mhm,
Otto Kruger, um, who is he seems to be like a what you call it, like a psychiatrist or something like that. Some of the
yeah.
ideas, yeah,
He's a psychiatrist or
yeah,
colleagues of Van Helsing because he doesn't know any lawyers right off the bat. But he's also someone who right off the bat is very wealthy, well off. First thing we see him is he's taking a vacation where he's gone out hunting, and he's using a gun he's never used before.
yeah, you're
Uh,
right.
yeah, he seems to be a well-off character, the opposite of kind of like the Van Helsing character. But when Van Helsing calls, he puts it all to the side to go help his friend
Yeah.
out.
That
Uh,
that bird student scene's pretty cool too because they got like it's this big country club and there's a
yeah,
huge amount of extras in that scene and he's got like this gun and he's like the other guy and then the girl comes up with Janet his
yeah,
he calls her his assistant. She's like seems to be clearly in love with him, but he maybe is with her, but they try to pretend like they're not.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but she comes up, but she's very pushy, very like it's constantly trying to control whatever he's doing, and he's fighting back against it in a comical
yes.
way. But he seems to be enjoying it because he gives it back to her the same way that she gives it back to him. But she just shows up there and she's like, "Yeah, we got to go." She doesn't even tell him what they're doing, and he's like, "No, we're not going. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, we got to go." And then finally, she tells him what's going on, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, we got to go." It's my friend Van Helsing, but before that, it's like she's just like trying to just like get him to do it without even telling him what's up.
Well, I like her character because she's a very strong-willed character. I mean, she plays pranks on him against
Yeah,
his own better judgment.
yeah,
And to the fact that I think he fires her at one point.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's funny. That's funny when she damn pranks calls him though, because
yeah.
it's just like what? Like when that happens, it's like damn, they were doing that in 1934, it's like, 1936,
Well, she's very progressive in the fact because she know we all know as the audience that she likes this character, even though Garth can't really. It almost seems like he's oblivious sometimes, and sometimes he's not. Uh, but she's very pushy and she's very progressive. I mean, she's the one driving the car and chauffeuring him around, like he,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and
right, right.
yeah,
She has agency for sure, and it's like
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, which is kind of the opposite that we've seen in other Universal movies. We've discussed this
yeah.
kind of character in a lot of the other ones.
We
Uh,
saw we saw one of them in one of the Creature from the Black Lagoon movies. I think the second one where she had more agency than you would
yeah,
expect. I think that something happened here in between. I think it like the earlier ones like there was a little bit of like, hey, we need to really develop the women a little bit more and give them more agency. You do see that as it goes on, but it does seem like something must have happened probably in the 40s or the 50s where they became less they pulled back on that and it became more annoying in a
yeah.
way.
No, no, I agree with you. We saw that especially while watching and discussing the Mummy films and the Creature from the Black Lagoon films, because the Creature from the Black Lagoon films came later than those Mummy movies,
Yeah.
at least most of them, anyways.
I think
Uh,
like yeah, there was like one of the Mummy films too. I think the second one had a very pushy
yeah, yeah.
female character in it too, similar to this.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it was the
yeah,
second one because
yeah,
the second one because in
yeah,
the third one,
yeah,
she's passed away, and then of course the male character's all grown up and older. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
that was
yeah.
I really
Right.
like the second one because of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I like Janet. I like Janet's character in this film too because I like the way that she's doing things I would not normally expect from a film at this time period. So it's refreshing. And it goes the same with the Dracula's daughter character. I'm stop calling her that. Her actual character's name is Countess Maria. Oh,
Well, they never call her by
Zelenska.
Mara. They call her Zaleska,
Zaleska.
Countess Zaleska.
Countess
I
Zaleska.
would suggest calling her either Countess or Countess Zaleska,
I'm
but
probably going to
yeah,
call her Countess for the rest of our
yeah,
conversation.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
easy.
yeah, yeah,
But the Countess is this film who wants that independence and she wants to be free. And some of these ideals, and then of course you see the Janet characters who's much more free than even the Countess is. And it comes into play much later on when they're essentially vying for the same guy, which is Garth. So
yeah.
uh,
It's kind of funny that like he catches their attention so much. He Dracula's daughter, the Countess. So when he's talking his psychiatrist talk, and she's just
mhm,
really honing in on this. She's like, "Wow, this is new." What he's saying is like something that she hadn't heard about. She's probably who knows how long she's been alive. It doesn't say, but maybe it could be hundreds of years. But she's hearing this new idea, which also includes hypnosis. He's got a degree maybe in hypnosis. He's got a damn machine that hypnosis
yeah,
it puts people under hypnosis. But he's got all these ideas that she's very intrigued by, and she sees it as a way to get away from having to kill people and be a
yeah.
vampire, I guess.
Yeah, she wants to be less of a vampire. That's an interesting concept for a film back then. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking exactly. I mean, Dracula was kind of the first of its kind before they started to expand on all these franchises.
Yeah,
So maybe they thought Boris Karloff's Dracula was a little bit too
Bela
horrifying.
Lugosi.
What did I say? I
You
said
said
Boris
Boris
Karloff, didn't I?
Karloff,
Jesus
man.
Christ, Bela Lugosi. God,
Yeah,
thank you, Dave, for catching me on that one.
yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
we were talking about Boris
No,
Karloff.
I do shit like that all the time and don't even notice I do it, man. That's why it's good to have two people talking, so
Yes,
one
but there's
person would notice it. So
oh
it's like,
my.
wait a minute, what? When did Boris
Let,
Karloff play Dracula? 1931 or what was
us get it straight. Bela Lugosi. I'm sorry
it?
about that, everybody. And now I forgot what I was talking about. So,
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, you don't know what they were thinking with the Dracula. Maybe he went too far. Apparently, I was reading something else. It said that the original director was it Todd Brown and wrote a script
mhm.
for the sequel, and apparently it was so awesome or so ridiculous that they like said no. They went and found somebody else because they were. I guess it was too provocative. It
Oh
went a little
wow.
crazy. It was probably good for today's standards, but at the time they were like, "Yeah, we can't do that."
Well, Todd
The,
Browning, who eventually directed Freaks, which ended his career pretty much, had ideals that were out there. I love Todd Browning.
oh yeah, no, I mean I'm
Uh,
sure it was awesome. Whatever idea you had, I'm sure that it was great. But this was a time when the censors were really starting to crack down, and they were cracking down on this one pretty hard.
oh,
There's like some lesbian overtones in here that you have a female vampire, you're almost always going to have that going on. But they basically had them back away from it a little bit, but they're still there. They still got like two scenes in there that's pretty provocative,
mm, okay. So,
which we'll talk about it when we get to them. But I don't want to like go into detail until we get a little
well,
bit
I
further
thought you
into
were
it. But
going to.
yeah.
That's why I
Yeah,
paused.
yeah, no, I stopped because I didn't want to. I just figured like I didn't want to just dive into them. I figured we should probably talk a little bit, lead up to it a little bit. But I will say there are two scenes in here that are quite provocative in a way. The censors pulled it back, but there's remnants of it in the movie still.
Mm. Well, no, it's always interesting when we talk about these older movies because either people have seen them and we want to assume people have seen them, or we have to assume people have not seen them because they're so old. It's always a fine line to how we approach these
Yeah.
discussions
I
because
don't think that many people have seen this one to tell you the truth, because
well,
I mean I feel like I've overlooked it, and if I have overlooked it, nah,
see, the Universal monster movies are always the iffy thing for me because they always make those box sets of them
yeah,
readily available. Like every year during Halloween, you see them at Walmart, and so I assume almost everybody now has them, but that's not the truth. Uh,
yeah. Well,
that's
even
not.
if they have them though, like I've had it for years and I haven't watched it. Something about. I mean, I've actually started to like the Dracula ones better, but I used to not be necessarily my favorite ones. I'd like other types of Dracula. I like um, I mean the first one is good, but I've always thought it was a little slow. But the last time we
Yeah,
watched it, we talked about it. I had a better appreciation for it.
same here. I think we both had this a better
Yeah,
appreciation because I felt the same way when I saw that one. That's my least favorite Todd Browning film. I've seen most of his films now. But after our discussion on the first Dracula movie, I kind of like moved it up a little bit because I finally had a chance to talk out loud about it. So
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think it's good. It's one of the better Dracula films, but I guess I'm like that one that Francis Ford Coppola directed. That I just think that one I really like that one a lot, but a lot of people don't like it. But it's a little overdone maybe, but it's a very sweeping film.
people always say that now because it's so far removed from when it was originally released. But remember when they originally released, it made a shit ton of money and it was hugely popular
Yeah,
because
yeah,
people thought that that was the apex of telling the Dracula story. Even
yeah,
though it added a lot more stuff than was in the book, it still was like the epitome of the Dracula story. And people, it has
yeah.
influenced a huge amount of people. But it also brought back people's interest in the older Dracula movies, and there have been a lot of them. Which is why I keep thinking that a lot of people have seen this because Universal Monsters has kept these films in rotation for so long. But like I said, many people like maybe like you, they may have bought the box set for Dracula and never seen it. Just like I know a lot of people who bought the box set and never saw the Spanish version of Dracula. They
Yeah,
just bought
which is really good.
just really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Really good. So, and we will get to that one later on, everybody. We have not done the Spanish version. We've only done the original one. We will get to it one day.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, the Spanish ones is like it's the same thing but a little different. So
Mhm.
it's definitely there's actually some fairly major scene changes in it that were
Yeah,
quite interesting.
we probably need to do that one sooner rather than later.
Yeah, yeah. I guess yeah, but it's there's a so getting back into this, so where we kind of left off when we were talking about the plot. This is only an hour and 11-minute film, which
Hmm.
is a little longer than some of these Universal films. Like some of those Mummy films were about an hour long.
Yeah.
Um, this one does a lot in the last 11 minutes too. It goes really crazy. But right now we're about 20 something minutes into it, and they're getting ready to go to this party, and this when the tie scene happens, which is a very cute scene between was it Janet and
Janet
the
and
doctor,
Jeffrey.
Garth. Yeah, but he can't tie a tie apparently, which is pretty funny. But he's tying a bow tie, which are pretty hard to damn tie to begin with. And
Yes, it is.
yeah,
I like that they do this several times. They did this twice in the movie.
yeah,
It's still funny both times they do it, but this
yeah,
first time they do it, she goes off and tells him, of course she could tell, tie a bow tie.
yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. He's acting like he could do it, and he's like, I guess she's been doing it for him forever. And she's like, since he's going out to go see Dracula, Dracula's daughter or the Countess, that he's just gonna she won't tie it for him, so he's just trying to do it himself.
well, the first time she ties it, but she ties it badly on purpose, which is quite funny. It's like you can see some of the,
Yeah,
let's say, antagonism, but the conflict between the two. We already know she has something for Jeffrey or Dr. Garth. But he just seems to be a little bit oblivious at this point in the story. Despite this great relationship back and forth between the two.
yeah.
Um,
It's such a great it's just the script for that part is just the bad the actors really do a great work with it too.
mhm.
Just the back and forth between it. It makes it light and funny,
Yeah.
and it's I mean as it goes on that becomes more serious, but it's like this the lightness of it at first, and then as it goes on, you start to see maybe because it could be presented different ways, but it's done really well. But I think we did skip something because before that happens, there is like a formal party that they go to, and there's a that's where he meets the Countess for the
Yes.
first
First
time.
time he meets the Countess.
Um, and there's the Countess is actually also a painter, and when they're looking at this really bizarre painting on the wall that's very gothic looking, it's like a kind of a girl standing out in this area, and it's kind of it looks very bizarre looking, and that's why they're there at the party looking at the painting on the wall, and she's coming in, and there's some talk about there's also some great dialogue about that because he could tell he doesn't like it very much, and then then he's trying to act like he does like it, but they don't go too far into that, and then they actually tell him like Janice says she doesn't like it, and she's like he doesn't like it either, and he's like no, I didn't say that,
Yes.
But then they start talking about some of the people at the party start talking about Dracula being finding Dracula's body and it disappearing, and then somebody says like Van Helsing takes his vampires seriously, and then the Countess says, and this is a line ripped directly from Hamlet, but she says, "Why not? Possibly there are things in heaven and earth." More than heaven and earth that are dreamed about in your psychology, Dr. Garth. But that's that line from Hamlet. It's funny that she says it. It's funny because it's like she said it. I was like, man, that sounds familiar. I had to go look it
Oh,
up.
you looked it up?
Yeah, yeah. But they changed it slightly, you know. And then that's how all that is. And then the doctor, the way he's talking, that's when she starts to think that he can cure her. It's also revealed that Dracula's body's missing, so they can't charge Van Helsing with a murder charge at this point. So they don't know exactly what to do about
Mhm.
him. Because they really want to charge him with murder, but that body's missing, so they don't know what to do. So
Well, yeah, but that's an interesting way to keep the story of Van Helsing in the backdrop and on the audience's mind when we're not seeing him, because we don't see Van Helsing a whole lot throughout the film. Because once it leaves him, it kind of goes to the whole Garth and Countess and Janet story
yeah,
until it pulls back to the Van
right.
Helsing story. So
Yeah. There's at least like 20 minutes in the mix there where you don't see him for a
yeah,
while,
yeah.
and which is with the movie only being an hour and 11 minutes. That's a long part of the film.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah,
I took notice that as I was watching it. I was like, oh hey, Jack Van Helsing kind of disappears here, but that's okay.
yeah.
I still like I because I like the actors and I like the characters. I'm perfectly fine with the what unfolds in this film, this particular film.
That's so when he goes and meets the Countess after the bow tie thing, he actually he's sitting in there fidgeting with the bow tie trying to fix it, and she's like, "You all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've just been having some bow tie, some tie trouble all evening." So it's like great the way they pull that from the other scene and then they go into the next one with that. Like it's pretty hilarious, really,
It
because
is.
it's got him so self-conscious thinking about the bow tie being messed up that he can't even relax. And then, but then, then she starts talking about the mirrors. He notices that there's no mirrors, and then she starts talking about vampires and mirrors, which is like a pretty dangerous thing to relate. It probably would have been better if she just made some
Something
offhanded
else.
comment and tried to get away from the conversation about the mirrors instead of making a real big deal about it. But that's when Janet starts to prank call him, which is she calls and just starts acting like saying weird stuff to him on the phone, and he gets all agitated. Um, and then here's like a bit of this is kind of funny, like because he's talking about his psychology or psychiatrist stuff, and she asks him for help, and he says, "Here's what we do with alcoholics: we just put them in a room with a bottle of liquor alone to beat them from their out of their addiction. Like that works. You put an alcoholic in a room with a bottle of liquor, and you're like, don't drink it."
I don't think I picked up on that story, dude. I
But
really don't.
it's like the idea of that's what like sometimes when they say their idea about what their therapy is going to be, it's like way off and it's hilarious.
Oh,
But
geez.
this I mean this early form of it at this point it's always evolving anyway. But it's just funny. Can you imagine though some of the it just like yeah, don't drink it. I dare you not to drink it. I'm going to lock you in the room with that bottle, and I guarantee you in 3 days he's going to not drink it, and he won't drink ever again. It's like,
That does seem to be the consistency of how this all works in this film's world. It is funny now that you say that out loud. I didn't think about it as I was watching it, but when you say it out loud,
yeah, but that's what he's implying that she needs to do that to abstain
yes,
from doing her what he doesn't know what it is exactly she's talking about, but her impulses. He thinks she has some kind of impulse like that, but she
yeah.
wants her to abstain. So, like, if for a vampire, what you would do is just put her in a room with a person and hope she doesn't kill him.
Which is funny because what happens after that. Well, but I do want to say that he does get another call.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
automatically thinks it's Janet Prank calling him again, and it's
Right.
not Janet. I found
And,
that
and yeah, and that's the type of gag too that's been used a lot of times. This is one of the probably one like again that's one of the earlier versions
earlier.
of this, and it always works. It's always funny when it happens.
Yeah, it
So,
is. Isn't that crazy?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I didn't think about someone using that gag in 1936 for this movie,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
because it's
Right,
still
yeah,
being
yeah,
used today. The
yeah,
the whole prank call thing. So I was laughing at the whole sequence. I don't know if I should have been laughing, but I was definitely laughing at the whole
yeah.
sequence. So
I think there's some. It's weird how there's some comedy mixed in there, and it really helps lighten it for a little bit before it gets a little darker. But he gets a call and from a doctor at the hospital. He apparently has another patient who's gone off the deep end, and he has to go treat her.
Hmm.
he doesn't. You don't ever see that. I kind of feel like maybe they may have shot some additional scenes for that because a lot of times these movies do have. They were originally like an hour and a half or hour and 40, and then they were like cut them down. So there's possible that it had like another subplot with that, but it's not important. The idea is to get him out of there. So then she's alone by herself. The Countess is,
Yeah. Well,
and yeah,
I,
where she's there with Sandor, and then that's when she's like, she tells him to go out and get a model for so she can paint them. She's gonna. Then that's like because he tells her about the alcohol bottle, so she figures she'll paint somebody, which she needs a model to paint, and she won't kill him. That's the idea based on what his suggestion was.
well, what's interesting is this is the way that Sandar brings her, in a sense, her next victim, and we see him stalking uh
Yeah,
the victim instead of seeing her stalking. I found that very interesting. So he's
yeah,
out there
yeah.
stalking a woman, and he coaxes a woman he finds who we assume is a poor woman, which is why she goes with him in the first place.
But
Uh
yeah, but something more than that. He finds her on a bridge. She appears to be thinking about jumping off of the bridge.
oh, that's right. That
Yeah,
I forgot about. Yes, yes.
yeah. I mean, it's very much implied, but again, this is like a
There
code situation where they can't say it out loud. But I'm almost positive that she is going to kill herself. And then he even makes a comment about it. He says it's like I didn't write it down, but he makes a comment about how the water's cold or something like that. Um, the bridge looks really cool. It's really foggy, real great atmosphere. But then that's when he brings her back, and this is when the sexual scene happens. That is really pulled back. But she originally in the script that she was going to take all of her clothes off to pose nude for the painting, but instead they gave the filmmakers a note like do not do that. It's like, and they're like just do her neck, have her like pull, she's gonna draw her neck and that's it. And so that's what she's talking about. She wants her to draw her neck, and she starts unbuttoning her shirt and pulls her gown down so you can see her neck better, which is still, it's weird how just a little bit of something like that can almost be more sexual and more provocative than her taking off all of her clothes.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
it's the time period in which the movie was made. I'm glad we have these type of things because once we watch some of the later, it's kind of like watching the early Universal films and then watching the later ones within the same franchise, and we're noticing the difference in what we do and don't see based on the rules of the what's the
The
Hays code?
censors of the
It's
Hays Code, that the
Hays code from the
Hays
era.
Code. Yeah.
So it's very interesting to watch that. But in this one, I think it works fine because the ideal of her, the Countess, using the whole means of a model so that she could paint as a means to coax them in to be her victim is just original and very cool. I don't even recall anyone else trying to do that type of similar thing in this day and age. I can't recall another movie. I just
You mean
think
from the 30s, right?
well, in general, any movie from the using that same type of thing, we're gonna coax my victim by being a
But
piece of my art or something like
yeah,
that.
but no, there's a lot of movies like that though. Um, one that comes to mind is an independent film that I should remember Brian Avenett Bradley made. It was called I think
Ghost of the Needle.
Ghost of the Needle. That was like he was a photographer and he would like lure in his victims like with the photography. But I've seen it in some other stuff too, though. That was a pretty good movie. That one really, the Ghost in the Needle.
Maybe we should put that one on our
Yeah,
list.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty effective. It definitely under appreciated, I think. But no, I mean, I've seen it, but I've seen it before. But this is one of the earlier forms of that happening, and and it's like they very like lightly. It's like the light. I mean, they don't have that much of her being an artist in here. It's kind of interesting that
No,
they gave her that because they talk about it a little bit when you first meet her. It's almost like you may not, if you're not paying attention good enough, you might not even notice it.
yeah,
But it is nice that they gave her something to do. The Countess, they gave her something other than just being like a predator. She's also an artist who paints like really weird like picture paintings, you know?
See, that's the thing I liked about this character is that she is not just like your a vampire predator like you would think Dracula is. She wants a life outside of that. So we see her as an artist. We see her actually have a conversation with Garth about psychology and it's very different. I mean, there's some conversations like that in the original one with Bela Lugosi and I can't remember the character because I don't think it wasn't Van Helsing at first that he has these type of conversations with, but he has like, but they're like they don't seem to be a part of his psychological makeup in Dracula. Whereas here, it seems like the Countess really needs these answers because it's driving her. She wants to be independent and she wants to be free of Dracula's influence, even after she thinks she's gotten rid of it by burning his body. So it's a driving force for her. She keeps going back to Garth to get answers. Because after that first kill, I mean, she kills the young lady who's the model. She wants to keep going back because it's not working for her.
Right. And well, she when she kills the models, the lady starts kind of freaking out and she's like says she wants to go. She does pull the ring out and tries to hit she does hypnotize her with the
Mhm.
ring. And she's sitting there paralyzed, unable to move, saying she wants to leave, but then the Countess comes in, goes for the neck. Not we don't see it, but it's like a very creative way they shot that scene to make it work. It was like a camera move in onto her. You see the camera kind of moving back on the Countess, and then it was they did it artistically so they could avoid actual having the actresses make contact with each
Yeah,
other, and it works. So it's an effective way of doing it.
yeah. It works. It
Yeah,
still works. Even
yeah,
what shit, almost it was 90 years on.
yeah,
Jesus,
yeah,
it's hard to believe that we're talking about this in 90 years, 90-year-old film
yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
yeah.
So,
It is. It is. Seems like just yesterday, doesn't it?
fuck.
Is that?
No, God, hope it's not yesterday. That means we're
Yeah.
both old shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this after that it does have an ambulance scene. It's a really short, expensive scene, but they have the ambulance bring like the character's name's Lily, like the model that gets bitten, and they take her away on a gurney, and she's catatonic,
Hmm.
and then and we see her again later, but then the next scene we see after that is the prank call when the doctor comes in and there's like a back and forth like another hilarious bit of like dialogue between him, the doctor, and Janet, and he asked her about the prank call, and then he's like and then she asked him if he had knew anything to do about her getting a call every 30 minutes, and he's like, yep. He's like, I called the switchboard and told him to make sure you didn't get any sleep. So he kind of got revenge on her for prank calling by having someone call her all night, you know. But you think she but then she says she's going to quit
Yeah.
at that point. That's when then receptionist comes in and she's like, yeah, we got this amnesia patient. You need to come take a look at her. And he's like, all right, Janet, let's go. And she's like, oh, I'll quit. And he's like, no, we're going. And then she just like, all right, yeah. It's something that's probably not the first time this has happened, you know. It's like
I get that impression
yeah.
too.
But she seems kind of serious about it, about quitting. But then she's kind of pissed off about getting a 30-minute phone call every hour all night, you know. So it's,
I'm trying to remember where we are now.
well, no, yeah, that's when they go and they see Lily. She's in the hospital room, and then they notice the fang marks, and then Dr. Garth. It's funny because the doctors actually say this type of very negative stuff. They say it's hopeless, loss of blood, and apparent amnesia. She appears to be in a catatonic state. They're saying that it's hopeless, like she's dead, she's done. It's like there's no hope. And then the Dr. Garth identifies it as a post-hypnosis state, which he's more familiar with. But as we know from later on, this is not regular hypnosis that he thinks that he can fix because this is a vampire hypnosis, which is different.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, but he identifies it as hypnosis, and then they they see the marks on her neck, and then he goes back to Van Helsing, and this is 40 minutes in. It's probably been about 20 minutes since we've seen Van Helsing,
Yeah.
and there's also another character who hangs out with Van Helsing ever since his name's like Sir Basil or Sir Basil, and he's a pretty funny character too. So, yeah, he's like I guess he's a lawyer or something.
Oh no, I
Or
think you're talking about the you're talking about the
he's from
constable.
Scott. Yeah,
Constable.
he's constable from Scotland Yard, but
Yes,
he's
the
a
constable. Yeah,
yeah,
I see. I wasn't calling him Basil or Basil. I was
yeah,
calling him Humphreys. I was like,
yeah,
who are you talking about
yeah,
there?
yeah. He's Sir. They call him Sir Basil, but yeah, his
Yeah,
last name's Humphrey. But yeah, he's a Scot. I guess he's a Scotland Yard inspector who is more who one of the. He dresses in a suit, so he's probably like a detective or something, I guess.
yeah,
Or he almost seems like he could be almost like a, he's in charge, almost like a politician, like in charge, kind of like Herbert Lom's character is in the Pink Panther films.
yeah,
So he's
yeah.
like
That's
that.
how that's how I saw him. I was a little weirded by that him following Professor around, Van Helsing around, but it's part of this, story, because
Yeah.
yeah. So I was
He's
perfectly
probably yeah, he's probably like we call like a head inspector who was just the dude that hangs out in the office in a suit most of the time in these movies. I would
the head inspector. I like that. We're gonna
yeah,
go with
yeah,
that one, head inspector.
yeah. But yeah, but he's there, and then they talk about the vampire. Van Helsing's got more information. He says to identify a vampire, they will have a box of earth, native soil, which a vampire must return to at the end of the night, and also no mirrors. And it's like, wait a minute, who doesn't have any mirrors that we know? It's,
When you
it's
say it
all
out
starting
loud,
to
it's
tie.
hilarious.
It's all starting to make sense now, you know.
Yes, it's all starting to make sense. Oh Jesus.
But then there's the second formal event that they go to, and this it's another tie scene, which is pretty funny. This time he has a different type of tie on. It's like looks like a necktie. It's already tied.
Yeah, sorry, tied.
Yeah, yeah. But then he says he's been tying ties since he was like a kid or whatever. But then she makes a comment about it, so he feels like he has to retie it. And then he calls in this other lady, Mrs. Peabody, to try to tie it, and she doesn't know how to do it. It's-
Yes, I found that hilarious. She
yeah,
doesn't know how to tie a tie either. But he refuses to let Janet tie a tie, so she has Miss Peabody do it. It's like, oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then she eventually, like Janet, eventually gives into it and ties it herself. She can't stand it, and that's it. Then the Countess shows up, and then she sees Janet, and Janet just tells the Countess that he's not there. But then he says something, and she hears him in the other room, and she's like, "Oh, you're lying now."
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of busted in a lie, And then,
Yeah, that one that part right there is a little odd for me, because I'm wondering why she feels so jealous of the Countess. It I mean, yeah, it does add a little comedy, but that's the only part that seems a little bit too on the nose because obviously he's like in theory, yeah, he's like in the other room and like, why are you
yeah,
lying? There's no reason to
yeah,
lie.
she gets caught lying.
Yeah.
Um, it does open a question. Now it's all like played for laughs, but it
Yeah.
does open like the question of is she toxic to the doctor, like her behavior, ultimately? You know what I'm saying? Because it is very cute, and she's clearly like has a thing for him. But once that starts to happen, and you start to see like this jealousy thing come out, obviously the Countess is a much more dangerous person
Yeah.
than her. But I guess the question is there's a little bit of toxic stuff going on, but with any relationship, I think there you can't necessarily judge it. It's going to happen with any relationship. Like you got to maybe fight off potential suitors, especially in this time, in that type of age where it's a potential suitor that is she's a countess who is an aristocrat, where she is like more of an assistant. So she does have but he's a doctor who's not necessarily an aristocrat.
Interesting. Interesting. I didn't think about her being toxic, but that's actually, I mean, that
He's
very valid observation because of the way she treats him from the very first time we see her. You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But I mean, there's jealousy, and it actually is. Again, there's there's always going to be a little bit of that with it, but I think it's hilarious though in general. But yeah, it is like once she starts to say, "Hey, he's not here," and then she is there, and then that's when she comes in there. The Countess comes in and tells him, the doctor, that she's leaving,
Hmm.
and she wants him to come with her. He also introduces the hypnosis machine, and that he's got it on the table, and he's like, "This is the hypnosis machine." Um, so Janet, it does have some reason to be concerned because the Countess actually wants him to leave with her. She does. I mean, and she's fighting. I guess Janet is fighting for, maybe, even though it's never. I mean, it's never said out loud, but maybe the man that she wants to be with, that she can't necessarily be with.
Yeah, but uh,
So, but
I
that,
don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. You
but
know,
that does lead into the
what
next
happens
bit of
next?
business. Like that's when she gets the phone call, and that's when the hypnosis happens. When he brings the hypnosis machine in there to Lily, who's catatonic she's under hypnosis from the vampire
Hmm.
curse of the Countess, and he uses the hypnosis machine to find out what she knows,
Yeah.
and she says it. She says what happens, but it turns out really bad because then she dies. And then the hilarious part about the scene is there's these other two doctors sitting there looking at him like, "What have you done?"
Yeah.
It's like, just
You
killed this
hypnotize her
girl.
and she dies. Well, that's not good. Um,
But they don't even know what to say. I mean, obviously they're extras, but they're pretty good extras though, because the looks on their faces are very judgmental looking.
yeah, when you say that when they were just extras, it's like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. They just do what they're told. Oh my god.
No, but I mean, just like, it's funny though. They actually have like a two shot of them, and they just sit there like, one of them, really looks like he's in charge, and he's just like, "Dude, you just killed this girl. It's isn't good."
Well, we must get into the part where after, he leaves Janet and he leaves the Countess to themselves, because he's gone. What happens with her?
But he comes back in there. Oh yeah, what is he like? A minute, she's yeah. That's when he comes back in there and she's gone though,
Yeah.
and then he finds out where because he finds out all this stuff from the Lily
Lily.
hypnosis. He knows where she's at now, and he goes back to where he calls Sir Basil, and then he calls to come to the bookstore, the location. And there's another, like, there's a lot of like funny scenes in this because it goes to like Sir Basil sitting there in his bed, like looking at these stamps, and
I
then
know.
the butler comes in, and he's like, "I need to find the Bolvivian blue one," and then the butler starts trying to look for it while he's on the phone, and then the butler finds one. He's like, "Here it is, sir, the Bavarian blue." And then Basil's like, "You idiot, that's the Guatemalan red."
I know.
I mean, how do you say?
You kind of wonder why you kind of wonder if some of this stuff was improv because it
Yeah,
just seems so odd, like out of
yeah,
place. But it's funny. It is
yeah.
funny. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, but they give him business to do. Like, they give him, like,
Yes,
in
give him
that.
business.
Yeah, yeah. They give him like this. He's sitting there in his bed at night with all these, I guess, there's stamps, and he's got like a little pair of tweezers, like trying to find a specific
Yeah,
one that he wants to look at, and then and then he gets the butler. It's just funny though, and it's funny how he calls the butler an idiot, and he actually pulled out a red one that's supposed to be blue. It's like, how do you mix blue or red?
it's stamp collectors, dude. Every time they used to show people in the old days collecting stamps, they would have these tweezers to just pick up the stamps with the tweezers, look at them, and then put them back. And I'm like, that seems like a very boring fucking hobby.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh shit! But you know what? I don't see it that often in movies anymore, and it was very funny. This when I rewatched this one, I was like, "Oh shit!" It's
Yeah.
something I hadn't seen. I have still have. I don't think anyone's even thought about using stamp collectors.
Yeah, I guess they don't do it as much anymore, but
Oh shit!
it's so the
So
stamps are probably worth a lot of money though.
I those
Um,
probably are. They're 90 fucking years old.
yeah. She actually like yeah, in between like when he's in there hypnotizing Lily, she does take Janet, like the
Yeah.
Countess actually takes her. So and then at that point, Garth doesn't know about it until he goes up into the Countess's loft. This whole part reminds me a lot of it's like neo noir. Like all of a sudden out of nowhere, the doctor looks like he's all dressed in black and he's got like a scarf kind of handkerchief thing, and he reminds me of like a detective all of a sudden.
Shit, I don't even
But
think I noticed that, dude.
yeah, I don't. I mean, he has this. The wardrobe change happens a lot earlier, but it's like at one point he all of a sudden has on like it seems like a darker wardrobe. But he
Huh.
comes up, yeah. But he comes up and he's talking to her, and she tells Countess tells him that she has Janet, and then so he's like, "You have Janet?" He's like, "I don't believe you, or whatever." And then he calls the party. He's like, "She's at this party," and he calls the party, and then while he's talking to the guy, and he confirms that Janet's missing. That's when the Countess runs away,
Hmm.
and that's when like Sir Basil and Van Helsing or Von Helsing show up there, and then Van Helsing is like says she's gone to Transylvania. It, but that's where she's going. But then they have like a montage
Yes.
of like printing photos and newspaper stuff to show that Janet's missing, you know. And so some of this stuff is like really big production values for like a really short sequence, you know.
I didn't think about the production being very big until you mentioned it. You're probably absolutely right. But that's one of the things is this is the first sequel for the Dracula films, and they haven't gotten to the part where they are making these films on $10 yet.
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of great production value to be had in this film, and of course we got to go back to Transylvania because that's where the Countess has fled to after kidnapping Janet, which is just interesting little like we're gonna try and use some of the elements that were in the original Dracula film to kind of fill out this one.
Yeah,
Uh,
they do the reverse where the original one starts in Transylvania. This one ends in Transylvania.
mhm.
But again, we have a huge scene. There's this wedding in Transylvania going on, and it's like a
Yes,
big thing. And then they hear wolves howling, and then they look up and they're like, "Man, someone's in Dracula's castle with the light on."
it's such a great scene to see all these people just having a great time in the town. I was like, okay, I don't recall this at all. It's really fucking cool. And then, of course, they see that, oh, Dracula's in his castle again. And they all disappear.
Yeah, they're
It
like,
was
"All right,
really cool to
yeah,
watch it, though, because
yeah,
the costumes and stuff are look great. It looks great.
yeah." Yeah, they have Bavarian looking costumes on, and and then it's then we go inside the castle. We see Dracula's castle. They try to make it look similar than the first one. And the coffin opens up and the Countess comes out. And then it goes. And this is all like here we're at when this all Transylvania thing starts. We're at an hour and 2 minutes into it. So
Oh,
there's only like 6 minutes or left of the movie.
really? It didn't seem like it was that short, but like maybe so.
I'm sorry. There's 8 minutes left of the film. Yeah, yeah, but it's like, wow, there's like they just like blew the budget for the last 8 minutes of the movie. So
You had
it's
to get the whole town together to do that all those not dances, but all the costumes and stuff, dude.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was complicated.
But these scenes go quick. Like a lot happens in a really short period of time because then it goes back to the village and that's when they're all Dr. Garth arrives and they're all still trying to get inside, trying to get away from Dracula.
Hmm.
And then he ends up having to talk them into to going back to the castle, helping them get back to the castle. And they will only go part way, but he's gonna pay them or whatever. And then we see Sandor comes over and they have Janet. And this is the second part that's more of a lesbian provocative part. Now she has the Countess has Janet laying there on the table and she's just like staring at her. longingly almost. And
Hmm.
it's like that's like a they like the senators probably just went right over their heads. But they wanted to get that Kamala like lesbian vampire trope into the film without letting them know about it,
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
But
It's
but
just not overt. It's perfectly fine. They didn't
yeah.
catch it. But to remind everybody, the censors didn't always catch everything, anyways. They were really good at hiding things in plain sight back in those days. So
But yeah, because she goes and looks at her, and then it cuts away to something else, and then it comes back, and she's still checking her out, but I mean, obviously, it could be something of her like, what does this woman have that I don't? Because she
yeah,
can clearly maybe think that she, I mean, he's got a connection to her that I don't have, and what is it? You could always put that in there, or it could always be like the director just wanted some business for the vampire countess to have, other than her just sitting there twiddling her thumbs. She can check out the girlfriend.
yeah, because we got essentially we have to get Jeffrey there, and then also Van Helsing and the Constable Humphreys, Sir Humphreys there as
Yeah,
well, because it's very important to the audience and Van Helsing that Jeffrey or Humphreys sees the vampires and realizes that what Van Helsing has been telling him is true. um, and so
right. Yeah.
everything comes to a head within a very short amount of time here.
Yeah, that's when Sandor comes out and he's all like he's been getting mad the whole
Yeah.
time, like Sandor, the like her acolyte, and he's just like, man, what's all this about like getting healed? He's like, you told me I was going to have eternal life. Now you want to
Yes.
go be with this other guy, and you're going to give him eternal life. So what's up with that? He's kind of done with it. He's just like he's had it.
He is, which is why he was it. Is it an arrow? Yeah, he's using
Yeah,
an
yeah,
arrow.
yeah.
So
He's got a wooden arrow.
he's
Yeah,
got an arrow that he shoots thinking he's going to kill Jeffries, but ends up shooting the Countess instead. And
yeah.
of
He's a
course,
horrible shot.
he's a horrible shot,
Yeah.
horrible
But
shot.
it wasn't a good idea anyway. He's going to try to shoot. Jeffries had his back to her, and it's like that's funny how that's how the Countess is killed though. He's
Yeah,
like
and
he
but
just shoots her.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just funny that he's just like it's like there. It's almost like, man, we got to end this movie. How are we going to kill her? And then it's like he has the arrow, shoots it, try to shoot the other guy, and just I got an arrow in my heart.
And then of course when Sandor is trying to shoot a second arrow, he gets shot by Humphreys, and
Well, it's actually like another cop. They come in with like a third cop. Like
this
it's
third. Oh, that's right. There
yeah,
is a
yeah,
third
yeah.
cop.
It's another cop who they come up there with. He gets
That's
to he gets
right.
to kill the guy for some reason. Because it would have been weird, I guess, for Humphreys or Van Helsing to have a gun and shoot him. But
Would be weird for Van Helsing to have a gun. So yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. There was another cop there. We don't get to know his name. He's just the other cop that
yeah,
shows
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. He leaves pretty quickly.
Uh,
Yeah,
so then now Sandor is killed and the Countess is killed. Um and Van Helsing shows Humphreys the Countess's body. Oh, she's been dead 100 years. She's been alive for 100 years. That's where I have it. I wrote it
yeah,
down because Van Helsing mentions to Humphreys that she's 100 years dead. Uh,
yeah.
so
Here's how it goes. This is like the last line of the movie. She's like, Van Helsing's like the arrow, a wooden shaft through her heart, just as I've drove the stake through his. And then Basil's like, that woman is beautiful. And then Van Helsing's like, she was a beautiful woman when she died 100 years ago.
yeah, no, I'm glad you actually wrote down the whole thing because I wish I could have written that down. I didn't write it down when I was
Yeah,
watching the movie. I was like, oh, that's a great way to end it right
yeah.
there. That's a great line.
And then a lot of that line's actually over a close up of her face. She's just dead on the ground.
Hmm.
Um, a couple other things that happen a little bit right before that, like before the Countess gets shot, she is like bargaining with the doctor. It was
Garth.
Doctor Graff, or what was it, Graff?
Garth.
Dr. Garth. Yeah, she's bargaining with him. She basically basically says that she will let a Janet go if he agrees to stay there with her. And
Mhm.
she also says she's under hypnosis, but it's a spell that can only be broken by her. So that tells you what happened with Lily earlier was her hypnosis spell that if someone else, like when he tried to break Lily's hypnosis spell, that it killed her. So he knows that the Countess is serious when she says this, and he knows that he has to do what she says or Janet's going to die. So he agrees to do it, and that's when the arrow thing happens. That's an interesting part though because it really ties into Lily's death and the doctor knowing that the Countess and his potential sacrifice of staying with her, that he knows that it's not a like a threat. It's not like he knows it's legit.
No, that's a good observation. I didn't even connect the dots on that one myself. So that's a good observation that you made. Because I didn't even think about that. So
I mean, the movie's short, but they really like have a lot packed into it where there's things that might go right over your head, but there's definitely everything seems to be really thought out in the film.
yeah, yeah.
Like even like stuff like that. It's like why did Lily have to die other than it being a cool scene? But then it's like you have to have it for him to know that part.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And it makes for a different type of vampire film. You don't see Dracula hypnotizing people in the very first movie, this adds a lot more to the mythology that I don't know if they utilize in the subsequent films or not. But it's interesting that it's in this film. So
Right, right. And what one other tidbit that happens after the Countess is shot and she's dying, and before they say their iconic last lines, like Janet wakes back up and
mm,
she's like, what's his name? Jeffrey. She's like,
Jeffrey,
"Oh, Jeffrey." And then they hug. So,
yeah,
uh,
they
yeah,
I put that in there. This is a happy ending, like the end of the first one where Harker and Mina embrace. This one does the very same thing with the two lovers,
yeah.
not even lovers yet.
Potentially, but I mean, it does end nicely with them having
Yes,
that hug. So you do have them embrace, even though is it sexual? We don't know. It does seem like might as well be. He might as well. There's a 20-year age difference, but it's that she likes him. He kind of likes her. So,
they both prank each other. That
yeah, yeah,
that shows people love. When you prank someone, you love
yeah.
them.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah,
But yes, I do like the way it ended, even though it's tragic for the Countess, who only wanted to be her own person and not be struck under. This would be better, the Curse of Dracula. That's what they should have called this one.
yeah.
Um, it would
The
have been.
yeah, she wasn't going to get away from it. She was like going to keep killing people. She wanted to. I mean, but it's what do you do? You're gonna like she's too dangerous to let her live.
I mean, she is 100 years old. She has been
Yeah,
killing people for 100 years. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, she has to really
yeah, well,
she has
yeah.
to. Yeah. I mean, obviously, they were trying to find a treatment. They were looking for the treatment. It made her a more sympathetic character, but she still, when it comes down to it, she was a dangerous character. She's like the alcoholic you put in a room with a bottle of liquor. They're gonna drink it. I mean, they're going to drink it.
Oh my God, that's a great way to sum up this. Oh Jesus. Uh so Dave, are there any other ideals that we need to discuss with Dracula's daughter?
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
I
Yeah.
do think that this is a much more unique film than some of the other vampire films out there, especially in this time period. They had a lot of rules they had to follow, especially with censors and everything else.
Yeah.
But they actually crafted in my opinion, anyways, a pretty damn well drawn film with some progressive female characters at the time. These are not like I'm gonna stand by and be your man type of female characters. I mean, one's the lead vampire, and the other one's pranking jokes on her boss and
Yeah.
getting away with a lot of like things you wouldn't get away with in this
Well,
day.
yeah, yeah. You say yeah. Well, you say progressive, but it's also not only that. They're more developed. They're
Developed.
quirky. They're quirky.
Quirky.
They're developed. And when you say progressive, you don't basically don't want somebody to be a Mary Sue. These characters have flaws, and they're
Yes.
on display very well.
Oh,
So
that's
I
actually
think
a
yeah,
good. That's a good
yeah,
point. Yes, that is a definitely a good point to make. Yes, yes.
yeah.
So, um, with that, for everyone listening, what we love to do is we love to rate the films between 1 and 5. 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we love to do is we love to pull an object, quote, or saying from the film in order to attribute to our rating. So, what, Dave, is your rating for this film, and what quote, object, or saying are you going to attribute to that quote?
So I'm going to use the hypnosis machine that he pops in there with, and I'm going to give it 3.5 of those hypnosis machines.
Okay, okay. I'm actually going to do something similar to that. I was thinking, you know what? I couldn't come up with a good iconic item in this film whatsoever.
Well, I
Uh,
got something that was a more obvious choice, but you may say it, but there was definitely a more obvious choice than that.
I, dude, I'm at a loss. Normally, I'm finding something that's gory or something
Yeah.
crazy or something like that, but I couldn't think of anything for this. So I'm going to give it 3.5 as well. Van Helsing on trial for murders. I,
But what the other item is the ring on her hand that she hypnotizes people
crap!
with.
You know what the
Yeah,
ring
yeah.
is? The
The
ring.
scenes, yeah, yeah,
The ring is always iconic. It was
yeah.
iconic in Dracula, and it's iconic in here too.
Her eyes too, though, just those close up of her eyes when it shows them. There's a lot to do with hypnosis in this film, though. It's very important to the plot of this one.
Yes, it's not like a throwaway gag or something like we see a lot in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
It's part of the fabric of this film. I think it was really well done. Overall, I think it's a really well done film. It's a short film. It's actually one of the better Dracula films out there. But from all of us here, we hope you have enjoyed listening to us discuss this. We have several other Dracula films to come in our continuing exploration of the Universal Monsters franchise, especially this one, the Dracula franchise. So we do hope that you will like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube, so you never miss an episode, because we have plenty more left to come in the rest of the year. Don't forget our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into the amazing oeuvre of the 60s, 70s, and 80s Hammer Studio films. That podcast is every first and third Friday of the month. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a great day, and we will see you again in Dracula's Castle. Have a good day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.